I want to talk to you about my friend Charlie Crawford. He's a 10-time NFR qualifier.
Charlie Crawford, time to just shake it out and win. Got it on him fast, set
there
up.
We are.
Here's a dead
nice
money
run.
lead. You betcha 3-8.
That's an absolute perfect run. Timing was perfect from the time the first swing is up. He's got the control. Charlie made it happen by being timed up with his horse with the steer, and being able to not just rope, but to pick that steer's head up without changing the momentum for the heeler at all.
We know his beautiful wife, Jackie, all three of their beautiful children, the founder of the Liberty and Loyalty Foundation, which this year will exceed $1 million raised for military and first responders. I've said it 1,000 times. Charlie, it's time to rope, nod and ride, whip and spur. I want to welcome you to the Charlie Crawford Podcast. Let's ride.
Ready to take your heading skills to the next level? Introducing the Basics of Roping, the ultimate online course for beginners. With over 2 hours of step-by-step instruction, drills, and swing breakdowns, this course is designed to teach the fundamentals of team roping in a way that is easy to follow. You'll learn everything from the basics of rope stretching and care to understanding the swing and rotation of your hand. Whether you're new to roping or just looking to refine your technique, the Basics of Roping has you covered. Head to my website, Charlie Crawford Training, and click on the course tab to follow the link to sign up. The first 100 students to sign up will get this course at a special rate of $100. This would be a great Christmas present for that aspiring team roper in your life. Cody Snow, thanks for coming on the podcast, my man. I appreciate it. I know you guys are busy. We're actually here at Trump Tower and getting this podcast knocked out before the first perf tomorrow. So thanks, man, for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Like to start off first all is last week, jackpots out there in Arizona on the way out here to the NFR. How'd all those go?
They're pretty good. I placed at a couple of them, won one, and so won about 19,000 out there.
Pretty good way to start it off when a guy can hit out there, huh?
Yeah, it's pretty good. I mean, it's gone good for me, and this is a pretty good little run over there. I had one other opportunity to win a rope and I broke a barrier, but it was still a good week.
How many jackpots were there out there, and when did you leave? When did they start? When did they end?
I left the day before Thanksgiving, had Thanksgiving out there, and then I went to Buckeye. Then there was a slide that same day, so that's 2. And then Simpsons, 3. Another open at downtown, 4. 5. There's 6. 6 opens.
You get all 6?
Yeah.
Now, how many horses did you take out there? Because that's going to take a Remuda to almost get through that many.
I brought 3, and I just rode 2 of them. I saved my black horse. I was planning on riding him over here, so I just figured I'd ride them 2 younger horses I have. I rode my buckskin and another horse I call Yard Dog.
What did anybody get on a heater while they were out there in Arizona?
I mean, I seen a couple people win. Catch Kelton probably won. I seen him win probably 20,000 for sure.
Nice.
He won the big roping out there. So
which one was the big one?
Downtown it's Sunday morning. It paid like 16,000 man to win it, and then he won that one slide after Buckeye that night, and won another, or maybe one second, won another 4,000. So I'm sure he won about 20.
He's got that young up and coming look to him, doesn't he?
Yeah, he knows how to win. He knows how to get out and turn them, and he handles Scott really good. He understands how the run works.
Yeah, Chance was good at that too. He was a cowboy, and he could head pretty good too. He was salty.
Yeah, I let Catch ride all my younger horses that are ready to go, and it helps me out because he seasons them, and it also helps when you win on the horses for them to be good horses. So
yeah, he can ride good.
He rides.
I watched that.
I've had him come to the house and ride 10 horses at my house, and I said one word to him how to ride them or what to do head or heel, and some of them had a week of roping and some of them had 2 years of roping.
I've seen him a lot heeling when I was going to a lot of those junior events with my daughter, and he heels good. And then I've been starting to see him quite a bit the last year or so. It seems like heading, and it looks sharp. He looks pretty sharp.
No, he's good. I think he's really good. He's one of my favorite young headers for sure.
It's gonna be fun to watch him. That's pretty impressive to be able to come out there, and probably feels pretty good too when you come to Arizona because that's where he's from. But that's cool to see them young kids coming up and doing good against the dogs. I mean, you guys are the guys out there, and so how many of the top guys all came out early? Most of them.
Probably half the headers. I mean, I don't really count the heelers. I just kind of
Yeah, the heelers are all coming, ain't they?
But I mean, maybe not even half, a third of them from that made the finals this year. It's hard if you don't have enough horsepower and you don't want to be riding over here, and then it's not easy on your horses or just to win out there in general. So if you don't have your good horse or a dang sure a good one, then you might as well just take that week off and get ready for the finals.
Yeah. Well, what I noticed too, it seemed like after the Governor's Cup, it seemed like when I was rodeoing, and I don't know, maybe just the last couple of years, it seemed like there was a little bit of a break. Way more, when I was first making the finals, but like now, there's nothing. Like when you get done with the Governor's Cup, it seems like, because I thought, well, man, once the guys come back, we'll get some podcasts knocked out. Well, shoot, guys going somewhere. It seemed like every weekend and good stuff and good ropings.
There's so much money. I mean, from September 30th on, I mean, that's some of the best months now. That used to be when I first started rodeoing, that was kind of downtime. I'd go back to California, but now I can't afford to. I mean, there's that gold buckle futurity, and you have 2 ropings that are great. I mean, that weekend's full of ropings. I mean, every weekend until we leave, pretty much.
And then even when you leave, on the way here.
Yeah, on the way here. I mean, I skipped a weekend and 2 rodeos in South Texas out of 10,000, $4,500 rodeos. But it's like you really don't want to start before the year even starts.
Yeah. Yeah, it almost looks like if a guy doesn't have quite the horses, or even sometimes when you do, it almost looked like it almost took some discipline to learn how to say no, because there's so many that if you didn't have enough horses, you could cook them pretty easy, it seemed like.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, and the big ones are the ones where you really get ahead. I mean, you could go 50-50 on the little ones and stay alive, but the big ones are where you can, they'll pay your bills for a minute.
Yeah.
So that's the ones your horses have to be ready for, and that's what you're saying is kind of pick and choose. If you don't have enough horses, then save them.
Yeah, because there's going to be enough big ones now. Like the big ones, it seems like that's where your assets come. That's when you can pay for a rig. That's when you can buy more horses. That's when you kind of buy land, or if you have land, probably in your case, to where then you can add more sheds and things like that. When them big jackpots hit, those are good ones to be able to add down to the asset column for sure.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And then yesterday, you guys just got here and ran the steers through for the NFR. How'd they look?
They all look really good. I mean, they look like beef steers with horns. I mean, they're healthy. They run good. I think it's going to be a pretty good week of roping. They all look like they were taking it pretty well. So I think it should get pretty fast, especially the second time through.
How did they set the steers this year? I heard they might have swapped the order on how they used to be, the strong ones in the first round, the medium, and then the slower ones in the third round. Is that still saying the same?
I didn't hear what they were doing. I know there was a couple when we roped through them that looked like they were dang sure faster than the rest of them. And then the rest of them all look pretty good.
Pretty level.
Yeah, pretty level. A couple slower ones that you could probably tell are going to win a lot of money on. But, I mean, pretty uniform group. So I don't really know. I didn't even ask what they ended up doing.
What horses did you bring for the NFR? Which ones are you going to start off on, and which ones are in the backup column?
I'm planning on starting on my black horse, Ringo. And then on my backup horse, I brought that Billy horse that I've been riding all year too. He's a 6-year-old. So he felt pretty good. So I really don't know which one I'm going to ride for sure yet. But
now the black one that you said, Ringo. What, how old's he?
I think he's 16. He comes from the McFarlands in Utah or Idaho.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So
I didn't know that.
I was actually,
They've had some good horses come out of that program.
He actually started out as a junior rodeo horse. Their kids all rode him, and then Paul Eves got him, and he healed on him for a while, and then
okay. Yeah, I know that horse.
Yeah, I mean,
you're hitting on him.
Everybody knows him. When I bring him to Idaho, that people are like, "Oh, that's Ringo." We did this or breakaway on him or something, and I'm like, "Oh, yeah."
Well, Jared's dad, John, had a good stud. He had a few good studs. Turtle Pal had a horse that came out of there that he headed on.
That's what this one's out of. He has the old brand on him.
Mm. Yeah, Jared was always really good with those horses, and good cowboy, and those suckers could run, and they were gritty.
Yeah, I mean, this horse is
tough.
He might be 15 hands. I've never sticked him, but he's got a lot of try.
Yeah.
I mean, I've rode him all year long and never sore, and he's a pretty good horse to have. Wesley actually had him and was going to buy him to Heeland, and at that time we were open, and I decided not to go to roping one day just for a split second. So then he decided to head. Well, then I decided, my partner's not going. I don't have any rope with at the house, so I might as well go to the roping. Well, he ended up having his partner, so I went over there, and he was high call back, and I was second high call back, heading. And
on the same
that horse, and he, I think he won it. And I was like, well, I can't have that, so I bought the horse. I don't need him to be heading anymore. So that's how it all ended up working out.
That's pretty cool.
He kept telling me he was good to head on. I just, you know how your healers are.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this one's good. And so I just kind of blew it off for a minute, and then he beat me on him. I'm like, all right, I'll buy him.
That's awesome. What? And then talk about Billy. I like that horse. I watched you ride him at Ardmore this spring at the futurity there, and that sucker's he is so the way I watch him score and work, and he just looks it. He looks the part. He can run. His feet stay on the ground good. He looks really easy to use your rope. He stays up where you can handle the steer, but he's 6, and he's done great for you this summer.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't make the finals last year, and I've been kind of looking for a horse that kind of replaced my old Buckshire Annie, and I really wasn't planning on spending a lot of money or buying a horse. I was just going to how I do it normally is just have one and ride it until it's good enough and then go again. But Shane Boston called me and asked me if I wanted to ride him at the BFI. And I told him that I was planning on riding Ringo over there. And I told him that I probably wouldn't, just because I think the horse is great, but if I don't know him really good, I'd just rather ride something I've had. And he's like, well, you could take him to a roping and see what you think. Well, I took him to a roping, I was going to practice on him, just ended up taking him to a roping. And he felt awesome for a 6-year-old. And I just thought to myself, he's 6 years old, and he feels as good as Annie did when she was 6, maybe even a little stronger, built to probably a little bigger, better. So I just told myself, I mean, as much as I want on her, it'd be dumb not to own this horse, because somebody's going to buy him, and then I'm going to have to compete against him. And it's been a great deal. He finished out the year with went in good at all the futurities, and Billy Jack showed him in Utah and won 3rd over there. So the horse, I rode him at Cheyenne, and he went straight to the Utah show, won 3rd, and he's just all around pretty dang good.
He's a cool horse. He looks it. He looks like he deserves to be out here. Like when I watched him, I'm like, that sucker needs to be going down the road.
I can run the RPMs at 10 and then walk him around in a couple of circles and talk him back down to a horse show in 10 minutes before I rope on him. So that's pretty special, because when rodeoing, you need him almost wanting to run by the steer. At the horse shows, they need to almost look like they're, just melting as they come up to him. So he's really good about how your body posture. He can read you really good. He's been really good though.
Yeah, at 6, and I think I watched you guys maybe at Walla Walla. I think placed in maybe both rounds. Can't remember if you won the average or not, but I watched some of the highlight reels, and I think Greeley, he just looked like a veteran. Scored good, stayed on the ground good. It looked like when you dallied, you could put the steer wherever you wanted, finish strong. Just had a good look to him.
Yeah, he did good at Reno and Greeley, and I won Prescott on him, and so he's just been good all year. Every setup, and then I really needed him at the end of the year this year, and Walla he did awesome. Ellensburg, he did good. I did one good at the West Star Jackpot on him. Kept me rolling.
That's impressive to me for a 6-year-old to be able to stay together out there rodeoing. And it sounded like he was just as good at the end of the year as when he first started, and then still good at the fraternities.
He felt the best he felt was at the last couple of rodeos of the year. Like I finally felt like in the whole year, I felt like he was just learning, which he was still doing good. And the end of the year, he was scoring and then firing, and making the run happen.
Yeah. Well, you've always had a really good ability of jockeying. I've always thought you've jockeyed really well. I've always thought like your technique on how good you score, how good you bring your first swing up and get ahead of them good. And you're long armed, and you're always really ahead of them. And when you would pull your slack, I don't even know if I've ever seen you lose your rope, because it almost seems like you're able to ride and still push forward and finish. Like your ability to ride horses has been really up there with some of the top jockeys. So to see you kind of get a young horse, that seems like a pretty good fit, because I know you know how to ride one, and it looked, like I say, to be able to hold one together at the end of the year, that's pretty cool.
I appreciate it. But yeah, no, that horse, when I rode on him, I was like, I ride a lot of horses all year. And that horse just jumped off the page. I said, anything I asked him to do, he could do it. And if I can just get with him, that's my that'll get me another 10 years, hopefully.
Yeah.
And
Billy's done a good job too, I think, with those horses. That gray that he's got coming up looks good too.
yeah, I really believe in what Billy has going on.
Mm-hmm.
He's been doing a really good job with his head horses. I talked to him about it a lot, and just certain things that he trained my Billy to do. I've tried to work on my other horses, doing that same way and kind of changing my style a little bit after getting to ride that horse, how he was trained. And so it's been really good talking to him and stuff like that.
It's really cool too, I think, for Billy Jack, because he's made such a good name for himself on the heel side. With Notorious B.I.G. and some of the other heel horses he's had before, and then now he's doing really good on the head side. He's producing some strong ones there, and I think it's really cool too that now these guys are doing a lot of this training and they're judging on this stuff. I think it's helped me too, and I only just kind of part-time futurity, but I think too it's also helping some of the top guys too, is understanding. Like for me, it's almost better for me where I'm understanding the corner better.
Yeah.
That's probably what I've kind of taken out of that, and then understanding the footwork a little bit better on the finish. What's some of the takes that you've kind of gotten?
That's the finish is what I've always just put both like one leg on them to face them, and now I've gotten to where I'm trying to lift their bellies up once they get straight and make them come back through themselves, like where they can back up and keep their feet moving.
So like when you say keeping their feet in them to where you're picking them up, like their shoulders are coming up, and then where it's able to keep their feet up where they're not kind of leaning on it.
Yeah, where they're not just side passing, because
Mm-hmm.
rodeoing, they need to face. Trevor does it great. They've always just looked down the pipe, but like, you know how it is. We're just trying to keep the ropes tight.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm just keeping my leg on them and keeping them moving. Well, that's not what they want the horses. Really, they want them to come around a little quicker. And so now when my horse feels like he's starting to drift, I can just stick my outside leg on him, and then he just grabs his butt and kind of sucks underneath himself. And that's helped me with some of my younger horses, getting them to, tighten down a little bit in their face.
Yeah, that's cool. So when you go out there to Arizona, you go from, I think it was 80 degrees out there last week. You're probably roping smaller horn steers, smaller steers, especially like when it comes to like the NFR. I know you're classic line of rope or company, but what are some of the lines of ropes that you use, and do you throw in like some different lays of ropes when you go from like the Arizona jackpots to when it's warmer to say like the NFR when it gets a little bit cooler?
Dang sure at the NFR I want to have a rope that's a little bit firmer. You only have 2 swings, 3 swings to get it up and get it on them, and the steers have big horns, and sometimes you're on top of them and sometimes you're 2 coils away. So with having a stiffer rope, I feel like I can keep it open and throw it harder if I need to, or let up and put it on them. With a softer rope, I feel like it's harder over here for me because I have a tighter swing, and I will cut it in half sometimes and split the horn. So it encourages me to split the horn to the softer one. Now, jackpot and all that, I don't mind as much to have a little bit of a softer rope, but I tend to keep just to a soft, and then when I get some stiffer ones, when I'm breaking them in, I just put them in the bag and save them from over here. But yeah, like last week, I was using kind of more of my softer ropes. And
extra soft or soft?
Soft. And I've been using the GT4. I've always been a Powerline Light guy, but kind of since the beginning of September, the GT4s felt really good to me. They're they feel a little bit faster and a little bit lighter, and it's been fitting me a little better.
I remember sometimes my roping sometimes would almost go through phases and seasons. It seemed like sometimes if my swing didn't feel like it was fast enough, I'd almost tighten it up with maybe a heat or, because I had a bigger, slower swing. I love the spiders, but man, sometimes they could be going so fast. But then there'd be times I'd get going too fast, and then, man, a power line and a GT4 just seemed like they were just that good mix where they had a good body, good feel, but they'd slow it down enough where you could feel your tips so much easier. But like I remember going through some of those phases where I'd kind of trade lines of ropes a little bit sometimes. Do you go through any of those phases?
Just starting to. I've gotten to where I was always just like do or die power line, and I've gotten a little more confidence using different rope. I used to use the heat when I was roping Dugan. I was using the heat, and then I got to going to a power line. I just felt like they fit me good, and I still do like rodeoing with them. They take a lot of runs, and They got a lot of weight to them.
Those heats take a lot of runs, and it seems like they take the heat pretty good too.
Yeah.
In the summer.
Well, and then I was getting to going, like, the reason I felt like I switched with the heat, I was starting to try to be too snappy. I needed something to slow me down.
Yep.
So then I went to the power line light, and I was like, all right, I'm just going to learn to live with this right here. And I think, I mean, they've been really good for me.
How do you have yours tied? Because that's one of the things a lot of people talk about. You know, the healers talk about the kick all the time. Like when you call George, do you have them tied any different for one like the jackpots in Arizona to where maybe you're going to where it's colder in the NFR? Do you have them tied differently, or how do you have yours tied?
I have them tied how George likes to tie them. Kind of George, he's one of the best, if not the best in the business tying ropes, I think. And I just tell him I like him to be straight. I don't like him kicking out. I want my rope to I have more of a healer, I guess, tie them like that, like where they want a backswing just a tick. So when they even out, they're straight. He calls them straight.
Yeah.
So I just get them straight. I don't want anything fighting against me, really.
Does he put them a certain way, knowing if it's going to cool off, knowing when you stretch them out, it's going to straighten, basically go to straight?
Yeah. When that's where he comes in. I tell him how I want him, and he knows where I'm going. So
yeah, that's perfect.
And that works out pretty good. So when it's like this, right now, he I think ties them a little bit where they kick out because it gets colder, and they'll want to have a little kick under a little bit more.
Yeah, because when that sun goes down, some of these nights it can get in the 30s, and you're back there in that alley. I remember a couple of times where you see your own breath, and it was hard to keep. You can keep them ropes in that gym and where it's warm as long as you could, but sometimes getting in that alley, it could be just long enough where you could feel them kind of soften or back up just a touch. What you said the GT4s are getting the call?
I think so. I got 3 of them that I like.
Nice.
That I broke in for here, and then I might go back to power lines. I got probably 8 other power lines ready, so I'm just going to go with whatever feels good and not overthink it too much, because same thing you do in the regular season. Well,
I watched your guys' practice the other day when I got to go over there to Wyatt and Payton some rope. Man, you guys' run looked really good. Really good. It was fun, too, watching you and Wyatt kind of talk, and, when you're talking about covering the horns, and because you have a good swing where your swing is opened up enough, but it's still tight and things stay covered. But, God, I mean, just assassinating some horns. Like, it looks so good. But you said you're kind of working on a few things this year.
Yeah, we buddied with Luke Brown the last couple of years, and I think he's the best. I mean, he's turned some more steers out of anybody, I think, at the finals. And he just kind of, I talked to him about a couple ways leaving the box, how your first swing should be over the top of the chute, covering the steer's head. And I tend to want to bring it up and to the left a little bit too much, and that's how it is, I feel like, rodeo and regular time of the year. But
because they're further away, huh?
They're further away, yeah. But over here, I have to tell myself to make sure I come across the top of the chute where my swing's a little flatter, where I don't put the angle on it to wave it off the right horn.
Yeah, because that's what it seems like here. If you hit the start, it's about an easy coil shot.
Yeah, it's like roping the dummy. I mean, It's the easiest shot in the world, but
if you hit the start,
but you don't expect them to be that close, so then you almost have too much on it.
Yeah.
Now, where if you have a coverage over the chute, your bottom hits the back of the steer's head and kills your rope and doesn't make it want to whip off as much. My opinion on how that works.
Because it's a game of angles, it seems like, because how you're roping one at Walla Walla with a 19-foot box and, or Tucson with a 20-some foot box is going to be way different than when it's 4 under on a 16-foot box and they're right there. The angles are different.
When they're farther out there, I feel like you're coming over the top more, and when they're right in front of you, you want to come down their backs more, for me.
And especially because it seemed like the goal is for the header to be able to make sure that when you hit the line, it's as tight. You want it as tight as can be, because there's only 55 feet from the middle of the preferred chute to the left fence, and then what the measurements are. So you want it to where there's no extra anything, and or basically get them before they get away and get as tight as you can, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, if keep going forward where there's no dead spots. I mean, if you hit the steer too hard, it's hard, no matter how strong your horse is, to make them take a clean hop out of there.
Especially as big as they are, too.
Yeah, they're big. I mean, so if your healer has to take 3 hops over them, you could have ran them farther and handled them good and been just as fast.
Yeah.
But if you get it on them fast and they take it, great, you're going to win a lot of money. But if you get it on them fast and hit them hard, I mean, you might as well did a better job and went one more stride, which is hard when you're trying to win $33,000 a night.
Yeah.
I mean, if you get it on them, muscle memory takes over, and just get them on the end of it.
What is the day monies this year, and what is the average? Because it's bumped up a little bit in the last year or so, hadn't it?
I mean, I don't know for sure, but I know it's $33,000 rounds, and I think $87,000 average. and I could be wrong on the average, but I know the rounds are 33.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. It's bumping up in a good spot.
Yeah, it's awesome.
The regular season has gotten a lot better. It seems like too. They're paying more monies. A lot of rodeos are stepping up. It seemed like some of the rodeos when I was going before I retired, they're like maybe $3,000-$4,000 rodeos added, and now they're like 10. Seems like a summer's gotten really good.
It seems like every week if you don't win 10,000, you're dropping a spot nowadays. Where when I first started rodeoing, it was not like that as much.
Mm-hmm.
You can win pretty much 1,000 a rodeo and stay on track, but now if you don't win 2,000 a rodeo, especially that time of year, you're falling behind. I mean, there's just so many guys that are winning, and the only guys that are, it's narrowed down to the best teams at that time of the year, at the end of the year, and and there's so much money at the end of the year now. I mean, you got to win a lot.
Yeah. Now you guys talked about we talked about the season, and you're talking about buddying this year too. And so you've had who's some of the guys you buddied with this year?
We buddied with Coy Rahman and Ross Ashford this year.
Bad boy Coy.
Oh, bad boy Coy.
Yeah. Oh, Scrapper's what I've called him. He's a goer.
Oh yeah.
He craves it. And I never seen it really in him because he's kind of a pretty boy, But man, he'll just put on his boots on and go, won't he?
Oh yeah, he'll get after it.
Did you guys ever have any confrontation all this summer? Because Hunter was telling me about, sometimes that tempers can get to flying, and long all night drives and things like that. And after a while, a guy can kind of get some things that get heated, apparently, especially if you leave your window up. Is that how it gets started?
Well, yeah. One morning we were supposed to leave at 6:30. What I was told when I went to sleep, and when I woke up, we were supposed to be loaded up already. It was 6 o'clock, and they decided to leave earlier. So I was running around. I got loaded up in about 15 minutes. Got dressed and more saddled. Well, we pull into a first gas station down the road. We're staying at Ben's, and I rolled down the window. I just was a little bit hot from hustling around, and it wasn't cold outside. It was probably 70 degrees, and he just looks over at me. He said, "Turn the freaking window down," kind of like that. And I'm a little short tempered, and I looked over at him, and I'm like, "You got a freaking problem?" And I said, "If you got a problem, let's deal with it." And he stepped out, and I'm like, "Oh shoot, we're for sure going to do this." So he walks around the trailer, and I'm really not that mad. He walks up to me, and I felt like it was pretty awkward. I felt like it was the scene of Step Brothers when they first meet, because I just seen what he was going to do, and he walked up, and he just grabbed my shirt, and I stepped back, and it ripped my pocket off, and I'm like, "Now
you just ripped my shirt."
Yeah, I looked down, and I don't have an undershirt on, and I thought, I was like, "This is the only shirt I got." We're heading to Slack at Ogden, and so I was like, "All right, I got to hit him now." So I just kind of stepped at him and just clipped him a little bit. Nothing bad. He backs up. He falls down.
I heard he was having a hard time keeping his feet.
Yeah, it was. So I'm just chasing him around, kind of like we're just kind of tiptoeing around, but chasing around. It wasn't much of a fight, but we finally get over we're at a gas pump, and now we got all the way to like the grass area. And so now I'm like, all right, let's go. I guess we're on the grass, so I feel like it's street legal, So I go to him, and he falls down again.
Gosh, dang it, Coy, keep your feet.
So then I'm like, well, all right, now I'm going to get him. So then I start I just start slapping on him, and just slapping him around a little bit. And then I felt like it was good enough. So I went to let him up, and then he kind of come at me. So I just kind of held him down and gave him a couple thrusts.
You already grabbed him by the back of the head, started kind of throwing him towards the hips a little bit.
Yeah, just to kind of let him know who's dad.
Let him know who's daddy.
Yeah, and then
Coy's he's gonna love this story, because every time I talk about how much he loves to go, it just puffs him up right there. So I guarantee he's gonna love this story.
He did rip my shirt, but he never no contact, no skin to skin contact happened. But he we got back in the truck, and
then everything good.
I was fine the whole time. Yeah, I got back in the truck. I was kind of breathing hard. I still didn't drink anything. I was still kind of a little hot, not feeling great either. And I looked over. I said, "You feel good about it now? You still mad?" He's like, "It ain't over." And I said, "What do you mean, dude? Like, what do you mean?" And Hunter and Ross were like, "Coy, it's over." Like, they shut him down. So the next half an hour, he was quiet. So it was nice, and we get to over the arena. and he goes back to telling us how to drive. He's in the back seat and tells us, no, this isn't where it is. This, so we get this going in the wrong direction. So then we end up plugging it back in our phones, and we get to the arena, and it was all fine. I mean, but
a guy can get some eventful on the way to Slack moments.
Oh yeah, I mean, well, the night before he was saying something about he told we were at Chili's, and me and him, we get along good, but we talk shit to each other, and he's like, man, I should have hit you the other day, and I said, hey, next time you think about it, do it, please. Hit me, please hit me. It's that time of year, we need to win, and but we're not mad, but there is high emotions going around, and I'm like, hey, if you feel like hitting me, you promise me, shake on it that you will hit me next time. Well, that was the night before he decided to put his boots on and step out, and so I mean, at least he called my bluff. I mean, we had to do it.
It is funny too. A lot of times after that, then it's like, all right, got that out of system.
Yeah, no, it was good. I mean, it was leading up to it. One day we're at a rodeo, and I don't know if he hasn't traveled with other people before, but we all lost. Drove all the way to Eugene. We all lost. We both broke the barrier. Well, and Eugene
is not on the way to it anyway.
No, and
it's as far as ways you can get from.
Yeah, no, a lot of them. It wasn't impressive. Had a loper, broke the barrier. So I'm trying just to not be mad, being quiet. I'm right over the trailer. It's my trailer. I have one side door, tack room. There's 4 of us unsaddling all at the same time, and he just walks his horse up and drops the lead rope in front of the tack room. And I've now got all my boots off, my cinches off, over the top of my saddle. I'm just holding my bridle in my hand, just waiting to get in my own tack room. And he's got his phone in his hat, walking around talking about not even what just happened. I mean, he just missed, and I'm like, why are you not thinking about what you just did? Well, then I finally lose it, and I just smack his horse on the butt and shoo it away from my trailer, and then he borrowed my rope at the rodeo. Well, then he borrowed my rope, so then he sees me slap his horse on the butt, and he throws the rope out in the pasture.
And it was his.
It was my rope.
Oh,
yeah, so I thought he thought he was getting back at me by throwing my rope, and I'm like, whatever. And that was just another day that we.
That's funny.
But yeah, no, it was pretty fun. I mean, Dankshire with Coy, it was eventful.
He makes me laugh, man. He was talking about he broke his nose at Pendleton, but he said he won the fight. So
yeah, I don't know. Good. It's always a push. Every time I've heard it, it's a push. I actually heard I lost the fight. So I'm still hearing things about it, and I didn't. Yeah, but
I remember I rodeo with a few guys that they wouldn't let the truth affect a good story. There's a lot of guys that you'd talk about fighting a lot. I've never seen it, but yeah, it's comical out here. What there was a little bit some tension this morning too, wasn't there? Over there, what do you guys do the grand entry?
Yeah, the grand entry practice. I don't know. Rough stock guys, they're getting wild. Dawson, Hay walked up and just kind of tapped Rocker on the chin, which was probably out of hand or out of line a little bit, and Rocker just come right out with it and punched him in the face.
Just give him a heater.
I mean, I don't know if he went to level 10 on it, but if that's all he had, all right. But it just looked like he wasn't goofing around, and that was. So I told all the team ropers, I said, we need to start getting a little more aggressive right here before the week.
Those bronc riders and bareback riders usually would come in because I think their party night's Tuesday night after the back number deal, and a lot of them hadn't slept. I remember a lot of times rodeoing before going through that grand entry deal, and a lot of them hadn't slept from the night before. I remember a few guys still having whiskey bottles in their hand.
They were all drinking.
Yeah, trying to unbridle each other as they were going through.
We did the grand entry practice 6 times, 5 times for sure. I
remember those.
And this is just we're at a walk. We can't get it right. Walk, trot.
Yeah.
And, yeah, I mean, they were all, we were taking pictures, and they were leg wrestling in the dirt. They're going a lot harder than everybody else.
Yeah, those guys have fun.
Yeah.
The adrenaline, I think that the way they're wired, the fun meter on theirs is a lot different than team roping. Yeah. But you guys bringing it back. You and Scrapper, you guys are fighting a little bit. So that's good.
I'm trying to keep it alive. Keep. These are the stories I heard when I was growing up. I feel like they got a little more contact.
Exactly.
But
that's funny. So growing up out of California, when I was first getting started, California was where it all seemed like originated from. From Leo Camarillo to, the guys that I think Al Bach was down there for a little while. I know Bobby Hurley moved over. 90s, late 80s, 90s, early 2000s. Most of the guys coming out of there, your Cody Cowdens, at that point in time, the Lockett's, Doughboy, and Meat, Wade Wheatley, Dugan, Brooks. There were so many guys coming out of California. Then the faucet kind of stopped for a little bit because everything kind of migrated towards Texas. And, you coming out of California, kind of the last one that came out of there in a little while, I would say probably since those guys. What do you think the shift was from going from there to now Texas?
Why do I think it stopped out there? Or I don't know. I was around a good group of people growing up, getting to rope around a lot of good ropers, and I had a lot of goals I always wanted to be where I am right now. So I don't know if that drove me or not, but I was kind of trying to stay on the incline. And Dugan, I'd go stay at Dugan's house in the winter. I mean, I don't know. It just all lined up for me really good.
Yeah.
And I don't know why it's not like that anymore.
It seems like the opportunities kind of shifted where, the weather in California was good. The ropings, a lot of the ropings there were good. And then, man, it seems like so much money is shifted towards Texas, where it seems like that's kind of where
it's hard to be. I would say I've gone home and went to ropings, and you can rope for $300 and go, 8 times the rope, and that's, but it's hard to get motivated to get practiced up for that roping. Or, we have a World Series roping. Madonna Inn puts a couple of ropings on like that, but you're not going to go win 15,000 at it. I mean, unless it's in the lower number ropings. And so I think it's hard for people to get motivated about stuff like that.
So was roping always your passion growing up? Was that something you always did?
Yeah. I mean, I've been roping since I've had a pacifier in my mouth and I was roping. So that's all I did. I never played in sports or any stuff like that.
That was the goal, was always being a team roper, huh?
Yeah, I mean, I used to just head the dummy different spots, and my mom and dad were divorced, so I'd go. Then when I went to town, I would rope the dummy from the right side, the left side, in front of it, on top of it. I mean, when I had to stay in town, that's what I did.
Well, I'd heard that you had a syndicate breeding program with chickens and goats. Is that correct too?
Yeah, my dad had a vet clinic, so I would, in the summer, all the cutters or any people that had kids, I guess, I would just sit around there. I used to have to trot the horses for my dad, and I had a goat roping stake over by where he did all his vet exams. And if the kids showed up, I'd end up hanging out with the kids, and I had like 30 head of chickens. They were all like orange chickens, and this is how the story all got started. A couple kids walk down there, and I'd sell them. I'd be like, "You guys want to buy a chicken?" And they did. So if they had $5 or $1, whatever, I'd sell them a chicken. And I never had a kid take a chicken home, but I never really marked the chicken for the guy. So I mean, I've probably sold 15 chickens, out of the 30, but I don't know which 15 are sold. And but their parent, I always told them they could leave them there. If the parent, I said, they're like, "Well, I don't know, my mom will let me have them, or dad, and I'd be like, "Well, if they can't, every time you come back over here, it'll be here." And I don't even know how old I was, 9 maybe.
Had some entrepreneuring skills early.
Yeah. No, yeah.
Had the same thing with goats, I heard.
Yeah. I used to bring all the goats to the high school rodeos, and I'd run them out to the girls' goat tie for $1 a day, and then they could exchange them every rodeo. So, and then I roped goats a lot, and I had like a little lease my neighbors had. I mean, a couple acre pasture I'd keep goats out in, and so it was pretty fun.
And you talked about your dad. He was a vet there. Where were you guys from?
San Ynez, California.
San Ynez. And then your dad roped, didn't he?
Yeah, that's how. I have 5 siblings, but I'm the only one that ropes. I'm the youngest. And, he roped and, grew up on a ranch and stuff like that. So
you grew up on a ranch and then became a vet?
Yeah. I think he told me, I asked him why he became a vet when I was little, and he said that he was tired of building fence for his dad.
Understand.
Because Ronnie Rawls is his brother too, and I think they all wanted to get away from the building fence job. My grandpa had a fence crew in pretty rocky country in California, so I didn't think they enjoyed that very much.
Yeah. And then how old were you when your dad passed?
I don't know. Well, maybe, I think it was, I don't even know, maybe 12. around there.
It seemed like it was right before a teenager years, I thought.
Yeah, I was about 12, I think.
And the plane?
Plane crash, yeah. Then he, towards the end of it, he was always flown planes since I was little. He always had like a little planes and stuff like that. Well, then he got into the acrobatic flying deal. Well, he went to like competition and like the joystick or like the stick, whatever, jammed when he was coming back down, I guess. And then that's how he died. But it was like a plane problem, I guess.
Yeah. And then what was that? I mean, that for a young kid, I think, because there's a lot of young kids out here that rope and a lot of kids that lost their dads and stuff like that. And so, you overcame it. I thought you did a really good job of being able to be competitive, and you're one of the top guys now. How did you kind of get through that? Because that's a hard time, I think, for a young kid to be able to get over that.
It's pretty hard, but I just roped. Like whenever I got, that's what I felt like closest to him. So I don't know if that drove me to do good, but dang sure there was times when I could have tried less, and I felt like that's not what he wanted. So I've
used it as motivation.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool because I remember watching you as a young kid coming up, and like you had mad skills. And like I said, not only that, but like how good you could ride a horse. You had that game early.
That's one thing, if I could say, is that when I was 9 years old, I was turning them steers, and I know the basics of team roping. Things sure made me know that. Like he's telling me if we can't catch 4 in a row, we're not going to the jackpot. In which I think a lot of kids need to hear that nowadays.
I like that style.
If you can't catch 4 in a row, you're not going to win anything at the jackpot. So I always wanted to be a healer. He shut that down pretty quick. I was 9 and wanted to heal, and he said, "Well, you can pay your own fees." And I'm like, "Well, okay, that ain't gonna work. I don't have money." So I had to sell more chickens. He said, "If you head, I'll pay your fees, and we'll say fees of the jackpots." And I'm like, "All right, I guess I'll head." Well, yeah, it was 4 in a row, and head, neck, shoulders, turn the steer, pull it at this angle, and I mean, he was dang sure hard on me about it, but I feel like I understand a lot about the run now, and even now, I still go back to the basics, and that's the stuff he was the old numbers. He was a 5+ or 5, he was a 6 in the old US numbers. But he still taught me stuff right now that I go back to and like the basics of it.
That I like that strategy. If we can't turn forward home, it's going to be pretty hard to just pretend that it's going to happen at the jackpot.
If you can't handle it, it wasn't just turn forward, it was handle forward. Because he's a healer and he wanted repetition.
Yeah.
And, he put me on a lot of, I think that another good thing is I had 2 good horses. He always had me with good horses growing up. So I learned how to ride a good horse before, I had to ride. Like I always had ponies and all that. So that was good for me to learn how to just get around one and get it to do something that it didn't want to do. But riding, like when I roped, it was on a good horse. So I learned how a good horse works.
Did you ride a bunch of them? Because how did you get to where you could ride so good? Because usually when I see that, like say Clay Smith, their family got a bunch of horses in there, and like they would just nonstop rope, I'm guessing. So like,
I owned 10 horses when I moved out from, like when my dad passed away, I had to leave the vet clinic, and I had 10 head. I had probably four that I can compete on, and the rest of them were stuff that I was riding and selling. I had a halflinger. I had halflingers. Little horses, big one. Just anything I can make money on, and that's how I've kind of done it since but I've always, just like the chicken deal, I've always I like that stuff. I like buying and selling, even if I'm selling you a quarter and you're selling me the quarter back a month later. That's how I just like the transaction.
Yeah, because you've found a lot of good horses and then moved them and then found more. Like I was always impressed because I remember a few of them that you've moved. I'm like, man, I wouldn't let that one go, but then you'd find another one.
Yeah, I just have always been. That's just kind of how I taught myself or raised, I guess, is just to. Just buy and sell them and ride them, and that's just how I've made things work a lot. Especially like talking about California, it's hard to make a living. I didn't, my mom was really supportive, but like I didn't ask for money all the time, so I would sell horses, and I had a lot of good opportunity of like going to helping people like John Chavez and Mike Moneghetti and Dustin Noblet was a huge part in my deal. Like when I was like 15 to 18, I stayed up at Dennis Carroll's in Buellton, California. And Dustin Oblet kind of took me in up there and fed my horses, and I worked for him and rode all their horses. So I was riding 15 horses. I mean, I had to ride, and that was awesome. They had cattle up there. It was like, I mean, that was perfect. It was set up for me. Like, I was the only one roped, and whoever wanted to come heel, I got up there to heel. So that was one of the best things that happened for me, I think, because I got to work on my game, and no distractions.
When did you get your permit? And then, because I've seen you kind of build and go on the jackpots, doing all, going through the ranks, putting in the reps, it looked like. And then how old are you when you did you get a permit and then permit for a year, or how did?
No, originally,
what'd you do basically when you turned 18?
California, I mean, I live in Central California, Central Coast, so all the amateur rodeos and stuff are up north. And I go to like 3 or 4 year. So I've been to like maybe 8 amateur rodeos in my life when I was 18. And I went to Brawley was my first rodeo. My permit, I headed for Dalton Pierce, and I'm pretty sure I missed that one. Drove all the way down there. Nobody wanted to go. I think we were all been hanging out in San Luis Obispo the night before, having fun, and woke up the next morning. I'm like, I'm not getting turned out, because they were all like, screw it. And I said, no, we're going. So I get everybody up, get them in the truck. We drive 6.5 hours down to Brawley. And I'm pretty sure Dalton hung his rope. If I would have turned him, Dalton hung his rope on the fence, leaving the box too. But I missed first, so it didn't matter. We weren't getting the time. And then my second rodeo was Tucson that I got to go to. And I roped TJ McCauley there, and we won second. And then, so I had like 3,700 on my permit. So I didn't really know if I was good at rodeoing yet. Well, then I entered Glen Rose. It's my third rodeo with Wesley, actually. And
you're still on your permit?
Still my permit. And I go down there, and Turtle Pal picks me up from Dugan's. I think they were roping or whatever. Turtle and I were buddies. He picked me up, get into the rodeo, unload my horse. She's got an abscess. I'm 18. Turtle has this good horse he just won the world on. And he lets me on him because my horse had abscess. He's like, this freaking kid, you know what I mean? He's probably just been jacking around, knew his horse was lame, or that's what I'm thinking. So I felt terrible asking him. Well, we win the rodeo on his horse. And so now I got like 5,700 on my permit. And the next rodeo I'm going to go to is like Logandale, maybe. And which I'm not planning on going. So next rodeo I'm going is like Oakdale. I'm going to go my plan was to go to all the California circuit rodeos and just learn how to do it 1 year, because I already kind of missed the boat, I felt like, to get rodeoing for that year. And then Dugan was roping Travis Tryon, and he was like, hey, let's just rope, because they weren't doing that good that year. And he's like, I was like, I don't know, Dugan. My good horse was hurt at that time, so I was riding kind of like my second string horse, which I wasn't very confident in. And he ended up talking me into it. He put me down at Logandale. We won the first round, and no good on the second one. Won Oakdale. It started off pretty good.
And you're still on your permit?
No, I'm on my card now.
So you went ahead. So when Dugan gave you the call, he was like, I'm going to get my card.
Yeah, I was living with him, and he's watching me do good, and he's like, well, I'm going home anyways if I don't, so he gave me a chance. And I ended up 20th that year, and he ended up like 17th. So it was like kind of cool. I ended up winning Rookie of the Year that year, and then the next year we made it. So when I was 19, I made it with Dugan.
Yeah, that's not many kids at this day and age that have made it. Dang near made it at 18. Probably would have made it if you probably had your card earlier, huh?
I mean, if I would have had my good horse, I felt like it would have been, but the horse I was riding, I had to hold my inside rein through my coils to make sure she wouldn't leave the box. So, I grew up on getting by a couple of them.
Getting by, yeah.
But she was good out in the field. She just was a little janky to score.
Dugan, he helped do a lot of molding in that process, didn't he?
I think it's awesome to rope with a veteran like that. Yeah, him and Brittany were awesome. I was like their kid, I think. I mean, they drove everywhere as their rig. I mean, I couldn't afford to do any of that stuff. So I just jumped in with them, and they had everything. And then I just had one horse and went around, and it was awesome. Now I still kind of travel the same route he showed me. Still stay at the places that he introduced me to, and it's been awesome.
Skrelly, not only was he funny, man, he's a great storyteller. But if you sit and listen to him long enough too, there's some strategy. He's a sharp cat. I remember he headed good when we were kids, and then then he got to where he's healing, and then made the finals how many times healing, and then did it later again too. And so because I remember he took some time off there for a little while, went to work, and then came back again, and then when I seen him kind of break you out, like you could see the fire kind of back in his eyes again a little bit, and then also too was like it was good for you. It seemed like too because being that young, 18 and 19, I mean that's like basically getting a quarterback in the NFL almost at a young age to have some guidance through that because there's a lot of moving parts when it comes to being able to get out there rodeoing.
Wesley and I we could have roped together, but I literally told him, I was like, man, I don't know anything about rodeoing. Like, I know how to jackpot, but I mean, I don't know. I was like, I don't know. And then Dugan asked me, and I was like, well, I'll know how to go. At least he'll travel, show me the ropes. And I'm glad I did it that way. And then Wesley and I started roping after that. But I'm glad Dugan took me in like that. That was awesome.
Yeah, because I think for a lot of people, when you go out there, just understanding too, you go from, like we were talking earlier, like say Tucson, 20, 22-foot box. That's a long box. It's out there ways. It's a big, long outdoor arena. So like we know that have been out there rodeoing long enough. But when you come out there, knowing that like Dugan would know like, hey, ride your one that can run. And then you go to San Antonio, well, then it's the opposite. It's probably 3 under or 2 under, maybe 1 under, but a 16-foot box are going to be right there. So, having someone that going plays, especially in the summer, more or less than anything.
I think the summer is where.
That's where like you have no idea what anything even looks like.
I don't even know what's going to place at that time. You know what I mean? When you show up at Sheridan, it's 4 flat win this rodeo, or it is 5 flat, 5-2, and so that was better. I was better at the longer setups because growing up in California, not that they're just crazy long, but the steers are usually older out there on good feed, and like you moved to it was good. I went to Texas when I was 16 in the winter, and then I was homeschooled, so I went there when I was 16 and went 17. And just to kind of butt heads with everybody before I turned 18, I think that made a big difference too. Wesley and I would go to the opener opens around the house, 30 teamers, Travis Trine used to put on, like just
I remember those.
Had good Mexican steers. We'd go over there, win some, usually get beat. Then we'd go duck off and go to some Cougar opens and try to get our money back together. And that's where Wesley could come in, and he kind of showed me he's always been so good at getting through the opens and jackpotting, and he taught me a whole lot. So just being around all these different, because growing up in California, you go, like I said, you go over there and you enter 8 times. When I moved to Texas, I had to learn how to go 2 times. And in California, all the opens, they pay the first round. In Texas, they don't. So I was always trained to like first round their handicaps, or they used to be handy. That's what they're called in California, and they're slides now. But go out the first one, hopefully get your fees back, and then see if we win third, or win the opens in California. So it was a whole different learning curve when I moved to Texas, how to win, and how to win against the big dogs.
Yeah. So when you went from Dugan, that was your next partner was Thorp.
Yeah. Thorp was like my second partner at the jackpots, and we were like the same age, so I'd hang out. I'd go over there and let him practice beating me at ping pong, and I pretty much was just a retriever for the ball. So we hung out a lot when I was younger, and so it worked out pretty good rodeoing. Yeah,
he's kind of an old soul as well. Very strategic. It seems like just when I was talking with him, I loved the way he would break down, a lot of that stuff we would talk about, but how he broke down was really good. But he was talking about the hard money versus easy money. Like, I love that. When you're talking about some of those rodeos you go to, especially the tournament styles where you might be toward the end and the leg might be making it back. Well, instead of trying to win the round, you can go make a smart run and then battle back and still keep getting your name called. Make sure you don't leave the easy money on the table. And then, the hard monies are like, I would say Cody, Wyoming, where there's 150 teams going at 10 holes. That's going to be the hard money. You better draw good. You better bring your A game. And he had a good head on his shoulders early, and was a winner.
He knew how
like
to
on
win.
Anything.
He knew. That's one thing that if anything, I mean, he taught me a lot just being around him, getting to be like a great partner. But dang sure getting through the roping and knowing, like, I was always set on, winning, being aggressive. I was really aggressive and just trying to win top 2-3 holes. Well, that's hard to do all the time, even if you're the best team in the world. I mean, they're going to win a lot, but you're still probably not going to win as much as you lose. So he kind of taught me how to just, hey, like, if we got a barrier leg and let's just make the short and get our fees back. Well, when I started working on just getting through the rope and not really planning on winning anything, which it's not like I wasn't trying to win, but then I started winning more. Like, then it was like we kept our money together a lot better. Mm-hmm. And that's what him growing up in Texas, I think and he's always been good. But that's the mindset that he had, is that's why I think he wins so much, is that he gets to the finish line.
Yeah.
And then gives them a chance at the finish line. If it's not there, then that's that. But most of the time, there's an outside chance to win some kind of money with a leg or a barrier. And that's what he's been great at.
He always seemed like a real positive partner too. Like, it seemed like you're always talking about going to win. It seemed like there was always strategy. And like every time I've been around him, it seemed like he was, had that mindset of the winner, even early, it seemed like.
Yeah.
So then you guys, how long did you guys rope for? Because you guys won the average, you said, in 19?
I think we roped for like 4 years.
Yeah.
Maybe more.
And then that year, you guys won the average. He won the world, and you barely.
Yeah, I won second. Clay Smith won it.
Yeah, because it was a split that year.
Yeah, he had some more money won from the Ram finals, and he got her done.
Yeah. And then, so last year, this year, this is your eighth NFR this year, correct?
Yeah.
With Hunter. And I liked your guys' run. I was watching it, a lot of your videos this winter when you guys were first starting to get tapped off and roping. Man, just the horses that he was riding, the horses you were riding, like, it's got a good look to it. It's got a good fit. I'm really excited watching you guys at the finals this year, especially watching you guys rope the other day. But when watching a lot of your indoor runs this winter on social media, man, it looks like it's going to be a good fit for this year's NFR.
Yeah, I hope so. It feels really good. I mean, it feels the best as I've had it feel, and I think he fits my style really good. Mm-hmm. So I'm pretty excited to have him. He's got great horses. So I think that the team that we're building, I think that's what it takes to build the team too.
What's you guys' game plan going into this, and what horses do you think you're going to start off on?
My game plan is, we're 14th. I mean, we need to win as much as we can. The goal is to win the world or the average or both. I need to be aggressive at the barrier every night, and doing that, I'm going to be close enough to catch, hopefully. And that's one thing that I could take from my last NFR is I was almost a little hesitant at the barrier, and then I'm having to take too big of a risk, which takes me out of the average. Now, if we win 4 rounds, that's, 120,000. That gives us a chance. And then if we're still catching and we're in the average, man, then we have a really chance to win the world. But if we just ease through it, and that's, we're here. I've made it enough. I want to give myself a chance.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing about it here. If a guy can just pluck along, no matter what spot you're in, it feels like you can rope your way in it if a guy gets tapped off early in the right direction, especially early.
Yeah, no, I think if we can be aggressive early, that's when those rounds are a little bit softer usually, and try to make good runs in the beginning, and then see where we're kind of laying about a little past halfway, and see how it's looking.
What do you think the difference is between this year's NFR, your 8th time, and then your first one?
First time I was just wanting to have a good NFR, wanting to win, and now I have goals of what I want to get one.
And it's funny how wide-eyed a guy can. They were like, for me, when I first got in there, when they pulled that curtain and I walked in there for the first time, I remember my eyes like went up to the top row and the still smoke pyro from the grand entry up there, and like I almost had, when I came back down, I was like, oh crap, I got a rope. Yeah. Like, it was so, like, my first one.
It's hard to even still. You get to watching the runs, and it's like, wow. So wow. And the steers leave, and then head loop goes on, heel loop, people yelling. 3-8, 4-3, and it's like, wow, making good runs. And it's because they got good cattle and everything's good. But I mean, a lot of good runs are made over here every night typically, and so you can get caught up watching it. And I think you got to bring yourself back down, and that's why it's good to have good fundamentals and try to bring yourself to there, or let muscle memory take over.
I remember one year watching Wheatley and Lockett. I think Wheatley was riding par one year, and they were lighting them up, and I'd never heard anything that loud from that area.
Yeah,
it was like the electricity in the Thomas and Mack is. I would say there's probably nothing that I could ever say that's even close to that. It is wild having 18,000 people right above you, huh?
Yeah, I mean, in Texas, like we talked about, made it in Texas, and it was COVID year, so it wasn't packed in there, but it's just not the same feel.
Wasn't the same. I loved it because it was close to home. It was my last one. But I would have loved to have seen what that rodeo was like if they would have let them pack the stands, because I think they could have packed the stands. I think there was pretty close to it anyway. There's I think it holds 40,000, where Thomas and Mack only holds 18. But I still feel like when they're right over the top of you, it's so much more electricity than any place in the world.
No, yeah. I mean, there's so many people in there, you can't even see anybody. I mean, It's just like there's people in the stands,
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. So, coming from, I've talked a lot of times for a lot of the people from the East, there's going to be so many ropers from the East, making their way out here. Well, the West Coast, there's still a lot of good competitors out there. And so a lot of young kids coming up from the West Coast, and, whether it's California, Oregon, or Washington, you kind of have the blueprint of what it took to get from, and probably one of the last guys, I think, from, in that region in a way. What would you tell a young kid that's, got aspiring dreams to make the NFR coming from the West Coast, how to get here to the NFR?
I think what I did good was before I turned 18, like I said, my goal's always been to be where I'm at right now, and I worked my butt off to have good horses, like whatever it took, and rope for them, or get them ready before you come out. Don't show up undermounted, because it's already going to be hard to beat them if you have the best head horse in the world. I mean, so you need to make sure all your fundamentals are right, and you got your ducks in a row, because they're going to get scattered when you get there. I mean, it might go great, but you're going to hit a wall. And I just think what helped me out was I had good horses, and I had 3 or 4 of them and then go where you win. Don't just go butt heads. Like, don't just go to the hard money. Like, go down to South Texas, where there's not every NFR team where they live in Stephenville. I mean, keep your money together. Like, you can't just get beat every day, which that's what's going to happen when you're in Stephenville, is that it's going to be tough. There's never really going to be any easy money, no matter if it's, you're open for 1,500 or 15,000, it's going to be tough. So it's easier to go duck off and practice what you and your partner have been working on, like catching 4, and then come over there, come back over to Stephenville and try to apply it there. But that's what I could say, is just good horses, and, think factual. If you got your money together and get a partner, maybe the guy that ropes the best isn't the best choice sometimes. If you need like a guy that can, has their head on straight and is going to get through the roping, and not the guy that's going to wow everybody, and I just, it's hard to make a living with a wow guy unless they're really good.
Explain the wow guy, because that's a great analogy.
You need a guy that's going to catch the last one and not be high call back, be 18 on 3 and 21 second high call back, and then they miss. When the steer falls down and they stop their horse and throw it. Like, that's not what you're looking for. That's not what I'm looking for.
I remember Rich Skelton said a lot of times. I remember one time hearing him talk about it. He said, yeah, that usually if a healer gets everyone on their feet, you probably did it wrong.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a lot of truth to that. Like what you say, the wow guy.
Yeah, no. So that's kind of what I've always looked for. Good jackpotters. All the best jackpot healers are also the best rodeo guys.
Well, there's not much difference, it didn't seem like anymore between a lot of the jackpots to the rodeos.
But a lot of guys say, man, I'm just a rodeo guy, or I'm just, well, yeah,
you better be both. You got to make a living, huh?
It's kind of harsh, but yeah, because you're not consistent enough why. That's why you're just a rodeo guy. Or your horsepower isn't what it needs to be. But to make a living doing this and to have the best partners, you got to be good at jackpotting, because the best healers are good at jackpotting, and they need a header that's going to let them feed their family in the winter,
What do you think most of the top guys probably won this year jackpotting?
I mean, I don't even know. I mean, I feel like they win close to 75 to 100. I mean, 75,000, I feel like, or more. I mean, depends on who it was.
Because what does the BFI pay now? Because it's almost that, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many ropers that pay so much now. It's hard to I don't even know.
I would think I would think a lot of the top guys probably got more than 100,000 one. I would say probably jackpotting, huh?
Yeah, I would think so. I mean, dang sure.
That's a pretty good side gig when it comes to, it took over 100 to make the NFR this year, and a lot of you guys are going to walk out with $100,000 to $200,000 at the NFR this year, and you throw another 100,000 in the jackpot. That's pretty good year. And it takes that if a guy's going to be able to stay going, to keep adding to those horses and get enough steers and being able to have a place and things like that. So
it costs a lot to play the game, but if you're at the top of it, it's pretty rewarding. And I've been on both sides of it, and it's a struggle to get to where I was winning a lot and where I could have what I have. But I felt like it was well worth it when I did, because now I have horses I really like and a place, and it's all worked out. But I haven't coasted at all.
Yeah.
But I'm more of a worker, like ride horses all day more than hang out. And I feel like that's just kind of a good backup plan, because I'm getting paid for my practice. When I buy horses to train on and stuff, I'm not just freestyle roping on them. I'm trying to get them better. And then when they allow me to rope how I want to rope, then I get whatever months till they sell to rope on them like that, But I'm not a big believer on just practice horse, but but they do. A good practice horse has its purpose for sure, because you can make a lot of money having your stuff working right, your fundamentals right before the roping and stuff like that. But I always try to have some good horses coming up that I could practice on, and then also sell if they aren't exactly what I want. I
remember starting off, I was kind of the same way. I never got a practice horse till later, but I'd always have one and move one, get a younger one, get it going. If it didn't, if it was going to be a good horse to go to a jackpots, then lower numbered roping and move it, and then find a blowed up rodeo horse or whatever, or something blowed up and kind of making a move around. But man, the practice horse was something that, man, when I had something that was actually good enough, not quite good enough to go to the better rodeos, but good enough where like I get 10 runs for myself or 12 runs for myself. Where that helped me probably as much as anything, is when I was able to have something I go work on me, because it seemed like I was training too much. That was kind of my downfall.
That's the fine line, and that's where there's two sides of it. That's why I'm playing have a lot of horses and work on stuff all the time. I'm working on something on a horse or myself every day, but I got to play with my roping all the time, because I'm playing with my riding. I'm always focused on my riding, so then I got to go back where guys like, say, Dustin Esquiza, he might have something he practices on, but he doesn't have 10 horses he's riding every day, and he's number one in the world. So maybe that's the right way to do it.
A lot of different strategies out here.
Yeah, there's not one. There's a lot more ways to do it than one. But I like the way I did it. I feel like I can lose rodeoing and still make a living, or do both and straight. But when rodeoing hasn't took care of me, having horses has. If I ever need some money, I can sell one, and I'm not stressed out at the next rodeo.
Yeah, it's good strategy. Survival skills out here are something that are very important, especially when you and Casey has got a little man that just hit the ground. John Van, how old is he now?
He's a month old right now.
Month old.
Yeah.
How cool is that, coming to the NFR and got
pretty
your little
cool. I gave
man.
him a pre-NFR at your open.
Yeah.
And now he's got this one, so we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. How cool is that now, rodeoing and having a little boy now?
Oh, it's pretty cool. It gives you a lot more meaning. When instead of, it's not all about you, you can't be getting mad, and because you got to set a good example, which is good for me. So I'm pretty pumped to have a son.
Yeah. Yeah. It does it for the first time. I remember that was something that was more important than yourself. And it's something that's very, very hard to explain. And I remember when Creed first hit the ground too, was like, man, I'm going to have to figure things out. Like I've got to learn how to do stuff good, so I can teach him how to do stuff.
That's where I'm like, all right, well, it's not just, I can't just be like, well, who cares? I gotta be better. So, and that's good, because it's made me better, I think, just in general.
Well, man, I'm excited for you guys. I really do. I think you guys are going to do good. You guys got a good run. It looked really solid the other day, and man, the way you attack the horns and way everything stays moving so good, I really think that the hunter's going to be able to get around them. You guys are going to light them up in there. So, man, thanks again for your time. I know this has been hard in the fact of with all the things going on, but I've always admired your story, on how you came from the West Coast and the things you've overcame. And another is just, I mean, you are one of the top jockeys out there riding those horses and roping, and got one of the dirtiest head loops. And so very excited to be able to sit and have a conversation with you, and wish the best of luck to you this week.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having me.
You got it, buddy.